time I spoke to the sky. I don't know why it felt so different. I wasn't myself. Before then, there was something off about me. So off, in fact, my reflections grew more unfamiliar with each passing, and my smiles didn't feel like smiles anymore, just tugs at the end of string. A puppet, forced to parade through each day but existing empty. There was no explaining the sleepless nights or the constant feeling of discomfort or unease among the familiarities of life. The hollowness of my heart had been growing notably bigger lately, preparing to swallow me whole from the inside, similar to that of a black hole. It had been devouring the bright lights of life, replacing them with this vacant darkness that could never be filled. Pacing around empty rooms, I searched for meanings that forever felt so far. The saturation of life washed over me, melting away the colours like acid rain, creating murky puddles at my feet. In the deepest depths of my stomach lay my unrest, regret, and burdening agony. Internally, I had been screaming for a long time, yet no sound left my lips. I felt unheard, choked back on words, to perform, to excel, to succeed and repeat. Incapable to keep up with my own life, I was speeding and losing control at the wheel. Holding my breath had me drowning above water. Expectations kept me running at an exerting pace. My body grew heavier, carrying the pent-up tiredness from battling life constantly, which was continuously ignored over and over despite the internal warnings. You know what they say. You don't know you've been caught until you find yourself within the grip of sharp teeth. Trapped and beaten by life, I found myself following the familiar pathways beside my house. Jumped the gate through the trees I knew what awaited me. I took my troubles and sowed them like seeds into the familiar green and looked to the sun's warm face for comfort. That's when I decided to confide in the sky. Instantly, I knew I wasn't alone. I felt seen, heard. The silence felt like someone listening attentively. My mind raced with thoughts and ideas, things to say, as though the sun created a spotlight and the daisies were an audience. My words became congested, creating traffic in my mind, almost like preparing for my first confession. I shut my eyes tight. I inhaled deeply, which for the first time in a while seemed to fill up my lungs to their entire capacity. Each crevice ironed out like an inflated balloon, unlike before, where there were gaps and creases which made me short of breath. This allowed for a clearing, a gateway of sorts which allowed a smooth flow to break the pressure. I declared loudly, "God, I don't know why I feel so alone." Similar to the leaking cracks in a ceiling, the more I spoke, the more pressure was applied, forcing the roof to start caving in because the house couldn't frankly hold itself together anymore. The walls I had built up came crashing down with each word, but rent was long overdue anyway. There was no thinking, just waiting to see what would stumble accidentally out of my mouth. I laid back and stared to the endless sea of blue where my confession sank and became buried behind clouds like hidden treasure. The crushing weight on my soul was suddenly lifted, forced out of my body, floating further and further away. I held back tears of relief as my words became engulfed and ingested, passing on the burdening of my hardships and converting them to mists of motivation. I felt forgiveness, and the love of my heart had to give had been restored. Feeling far from the illusion of its emptiness I was convinced existed within me, instead replaced by an overflowing and overwhelming sense of purpose with the excitement to share. With the awareness of this power, gift to talk to the world and feel listened to by someone, something, I had the urge to express my undying gratitude. I ran through everyone with individual thoughts and requests in mind. My family, my friends that kept me going, that keep me going forward. These words were given more thought, more intent with reason. When consumed in emotions, we forget our priorities, our people, our purpose. I felt so alone, but it took me being alone to realize I wasn't. The world was giving to me, and I had need to give back to the world to maintain this ongoing cycle. My unrest became rested when I felt listened to, but also listened to what the world had to say. Every day we live through stories, our own live actions. We become who we are through experiencing both good and bad. We need to go through the feelings of feeling we are existing in turn to help us find what we truly need to exist. Something spoke to me that day. The familiar field became more than what it was. Transported, conversing, alert, living. When I had said what I had to say, I felt renewed, refreshed, awake, and most certainly alive. I couldn't help but bear a huge smile on my face, strings unattached. I had a new desire, a new purpose. Simplicity and everything being right where we are, even in our loneliest hour. The world's warm embrace reminds us that we are not, ever, and we are never, ever to be alone. It feeds us the words we have to say, the power of our minds. And that was the time I spoke to the sky.